Hello everyone. That's my first video in a while. But yeah, today was the first day of practice for IndyCar at Road America this weekend. So before I get into that, I want to give a bit of an explanation as to what's been going on basically since the 500. So I've been sick a lot recently. I mean, I was originally, and this has been a thing. Like I've had essentially like a stomach issue that I've been dealing with really for like a month or something now. It was why I actually didn't do coverage of the Indy Grand Prix. I was really sick that weekend and I wasn't able to do it. I was feeling better during the kind of race lead up stuff, the month of May for the 500. And then right after the 500, I started to feel worse again. I wasn't able to get much coverage stuff out for that. And then it kind of continued to take a downturn, and it's gone back up. I've been feeling better recently, but I'm not feeling 100% right now. So first of all, if I sound or look like I'm sick at all in this video, it's because I guess I am not feeling amazing. But that's why I haven't been doing coverage. That's why I didn't have anything for after the 500. That's why I didn't have anything in Detroit. And that's why I haven't had anything for this week at Le Mans. That combined with this week, I've had some stuff for marching band starting up. I'm in my school's marching band, so I've had those practices, which of course are in the evening. So like right after all the practice stuff is done, then I have to go to practice for that stuff, which just it can make it a bit annoying to try to get stuff figured out for making a video. But that's what's been going on recently. So I haven't posted in 3 weeks or whatever. My plan for tomorrow, 24 hours of Le Mans, is to do coverage at the 6-hour mark and the 12-hour mark, and then a post-race coverage video. My original plan, my general plan for Le Mans coverage in the future is to do coverage every 6 hours, just in general. This year, I think I'm gonna take the plunge and not try to stay up all night because, again, I'm feeling sick. I don't think I'm going to be physically in a mode to be able to stay up all night. And I think if I do, I'm gonna feel like crap for the next day and not be able to make a video. And then, of course, because America, it's 10 a.m. that the race finishes, so I'd have to, spend an entire Sunday sleeping or something. So it's not exactly the easiest thing to try to work around, but that's my plan. I'll have coverage 6-hour mark, 12-hour mark, and then a post-race video. I don't think I'll have any videos for Saturday at Road America because Le Mans, I prioritize Le Mans, to be honest. I mean, this is the one week I don't prioritize IndyCar really in the year. So that's my plan for tomorrow for coverage stuff. So stay tuned for that. But without further ado, I've rambled on for 3 minutes now. Road America, day one. And today was actually a very interesting first day of practice because Alexander Rossi, and as I'll elaborate on here in a minute, he's quick. He's really, really quick compared to what we've seen in, the past couple of years. Let me get the results pulled up here. He set a lap of a 1 minute and 45.6027. Second fastest was his teammate, Colton Herta, at a 1 minute 45.7381. Third fastest, Marcus Ericsson, with a 1 minute 45.8050. Fourth fastest, Will Power, with a 1:45.8592. And fifth fastest, Alex Palou, with a 1:45.9140. Now, the two main things I want to talk about there from top guys, obviously, Rossi, second fastest, Colton Herta. So the two faster Andretti guys are up there in the mix. So Rossi's back. I mean, this has been a thing the past 3 weeks that I haven't been able to cover. Rossi's been fast. He was extremely fast at Detroit. He was sneakily fast in the 500. Rossi's been on a slump for the past 2 years, but I think if this continues, he must have figured out something with the car. Really, since the aero screen came into effect, Rossi hasn't been on pace, and this week it seems like, these past few weeks, it seems like Rossi has all of a sudden started showing decent pace again. And he's sitting 7th in the championship right now, too. So it's not out of the possibility that Rossi could compete for a championship by the end of the year if he keeps this up. And honestly, I want to see that happen. I've kind of been a bit of an Andretti fanboy, in my time watching IndyCar. I'd say I generally gravitate towards Andretti guys, and I think it's really cool to see Rossi succeeding again. It's been really annoying the past 2 years, just as a fan in general, to see Rossi, this guy who for the past 3 years had really been hyping up as like a championship contender. This could be, the guy that's going to be leading IndyCar for the next few years, really take the drop he did at the start of 2020. And it's really cool to see, hopefully, now he's back on form. And, kind of a random thing to happen, but I guess it did happen. But yeah. And another thing is Rossi's not even going to be at Andretti next year. He's going to be with Aaron McLaren. So that's funny, but I guess it is what it is. I'm sure. Hopefully, the team change doesn't mess him up again. But yeah, I think Rossi's on a good track right now, and if he can keep it up, it'll be really cool to see how Alex does in the next couple of years, and then obviously, just talking about this weekend. I think in 2019, they said this was actually the last race that Alexander Rossi had won before he kind of went on his, slump or whatever. And he won by like 25 seconds or something. It was like a dominant victory. And, didn't know it at the time. That's the last win for a while. It's just, it's cool to see. And it's not exactly surprising if you look at it that, the last place he won, which he won in dominating fashion, then all of a sudden he's back. So, it's good to see that Rossi's there. Colton Herta, obviously no surprise that he's up there. The usual suspects, Alex Palou, Will Power, Ericsson, somewhat interesting to see up there. I mean, he seemed to be decently on pace since the 500. I believe he made the fast 12. He didn't make the fast 6 at Detroit, but he made the fast 12. I don't know. Maybe Ericsson's kind of being bolstered by his 500 win. I don't know. And then moving on down the field, you've got Scott McLaughlin in 6th, Scott Dixon in 7th, Joseph Newgarden 8th, Simon Pagenaud 9th, Pato O'Ward 10th. So, I mean, just the general, guys that you'd expect to see up there. Some interesting names that weren't up very high. Romain Grosjean in 14th. This is a track that, it's very similar to a lot of European tracks. And while he's been in IndyCar for, a year and a half now, I'd say I would still expect Romain to perform at least a little bit better at the tracks that he's had more years of experience on, tracks similar to this. So it's interesting to see him struggling. He was actually behind his teammate Devlin DeFrancesco, who was 11th, which it's cool to see Devlin up there. Christian Lundgaard was 13th. He was the fastest of the Rahal cars, which another guy coming over from Europe, fastest of his 3 teammates, which Rahal's been struggling recently, but fastest of the Rahal cars for Christian Lundgaard. Good for him, I guess. The only other storyline, I guess, I want to mention out of, things here in general is just Simona de Silvestro and Beretta Autosport are racing this weekend. This is their first race of the year. I think they're planning to do a couple more races throughout the year, and I'm not necessarily sure if those have been announced. I think they have, probably. I just need to figure that out at some point. They were last in the session, and they apparently had a brake issue, overheating in the middle of the session, which, it's not necessarily surprising that they're down there if they're having issues. First race for this is literally their second race ever, and their first race not being like propped up by Roger Penske. So not necessarily surprising to see that they're struggling. Hopefully throughout the rest of this weekend, they can, I guess, figure it out. Obviously not expecting anything major. It's a new team, but, yeah, so that's kind of how Beretta's been doing in, stuff. They were slowest overall. They're like 3 seconds off of, the fastest time Rossi had set. They set a 1:48.7, which was, it's on pace with Tatiana Calderon, Kellett, Jimmy Johnson, the people that are kind of more typically down in that area. they're already on pace with them. So I'd expect at least a little bit of improvement later on throughout the year, and to see that they're already, somewhat on pace with Calderon, I'd say first practice session, there are things to be optimistic about for Preda. That's about all I have for results. The last thing I want to talk about was something new that IndyCar had tried for this first practice session, and I'm not necessarily sure that it worked. So generally, for first practice and for, practices in general, practices 2 and 3, IndyCar does a 45-minute practice session in a 60-minute window. So basically, 45 minutes of green flag track running, and then, if you get a red or something, red flag comes out, you have 15 minutes of an extra gap, basically, to, not run any time off the clock. And then once that extra 15-minute gap has been filled, you just essentially have practice to the end of the 60-minute block. Today, they tried out something new for FP1. They did a 75-minute session with no, extra, red flag time. It's just 75 minutes, clock starts, clock ends 75 minutes later. And they actually changed the tires for the session. So every team was given a set of red tires that they would turn back into Firestone at the end of the session. So you had some teams essentially doing qualifying runs at the end of the session, which is why you had, some of the faster times than you necessarily generally see in a first session. But it didn't exactly go very well, because typically in a first practice, you'd see teams run 2 sets of black tires. They'd probably do shorter runs, not a full run on either set, and then, have those tires for practice 2 to do some race running, and then maybe even practice 3 to just test how old black tires run. Just in general, have those tires that they use throughout practice sessions. With this, where they have only 1 set of black tires and then a set of red tires that they turn in at the end of the session, it essentially kind of blocked teams in, because the extra set of red tires essentially took away a set of tires that they would have had for probably another set of black tires that they would have used at some point. So the fact that they've added practice time and switched out a set of blacks for a set of reds doesn't exactly help the tire consumption issue. I think teams, especially at the beginning of the session, you really didn't get a lot of running for 20 or 30 minutes. You'd have a couple of teams go out and run. And then afterwards, you had everyone go out and do a run, just shorter runs on black tires, and then do, your quali sim on the red tires. So I think if they want to put this into practice for the future, I'd say, add the set of red tires instead of replacing a set of black tires with the set of red tires that you then take away after the session. I think otherwise it just doesn't work well. I mean, they didn't interview with Will Power at the beginning, where he basically said, we don't want to use up tires, so we're just going to sit here until, the track gets used a little bit more so that it's closer to what we're wanting for a quali sim. But basically, teams aren't wanting to use a set of tires that they're not going to get as much information out of. So if you give them those 2 sets plus the extra red set of tires, you essentially give them the chance to go out and run those laps they generally would, and then you can add an extra qualifying sim at the end. I think that would work. I don't necessarily know if IndyCar wants to go with that, because they're still wanting to keep costs down, and adding an extra set of tires for every team bumps costs up a little bit, bumps it up a bit for Firestone. I don't know. But yeah, I'd say that's what IndyCar is probably going to have to do if they want to do this in the future. But the message that it seemed like IndyCar was essentially saying was, if this doesn't work, if we have teams sitting in the pit lane for a bunch of time, we're just not going to do this again. So I wouldn't necessarily be surprised if this just gets thrown in the bin and they don't ever do it again. I think they should give it another try and add that extra set of tires so that it works better for the teams. But if not, it didn't exactly go as well as I had expected. I'd expected, you add more time, teams are going to run more. It didn't exactly happen. Whatever. That's basically what happened with the extra time in today's practice session. It ended up just being, teams sitting in the pit lane for the first 15 minutes, which is annoying, but I don't know. So that's about all I have for day 1 of practice at Road America. Obviously, Le Mans coverage tomorrow. I'm really excited for that. I don't know. Just quick general overview of that. I mean, I'm an American, so, go Glickenhaus. I think Toyota's going to win, especially considering that Alpine got hit with more BOP for some reason today. I mean, they've literally been like the slowest hypercar team all week, and then they put it third on the grid, and immediately the AOC BOPs them for no reason. And they took away engine power, which is the thing they've been struggling on the straights for straight line speed, and they took away engine power. It's stupid. But I don't know. I guess my prediction is Toyota wins again, but I want to see something else. To be honest, I can't wait for, Peugeot and the LMDH teams to come in, because then you just have more competition, that it's like big factory teams that can really have the budget to compete with Toyota. Alpine's just too small, and they're running an LMP car. They're running grandfathered LMP1 car, so, the AOC has every reason to just BOP them just because. And then you have Glickenhaus, which they just don't have the money, honestly, to reasonably compete with Toyota, unless you just keep BOPing Toyota down to Glickenhaus's level. Hopefully with Peugeot coming in at Monza, and then, of course, the LMDH teams coming in 2023, that can, maybe they can bump Toyota back up to where they're supposed to be, hopefully with all the other new teams that are coming in. But I don't know. I went on this is the second time I've gone on this rant. I went on this rant on Twitter like 2 hours ago or something, and now I'm doing it on YouTube. I don't know. I think BOP's stupid, but I guess it works. But yeah, that's about all I have. Day 1 of IndyCar at Road America. Of course, Le Mans coverage coming tomorrow. Thank you guys all so much for watching. Alexander Rossi's fast again. See y'all later. Bye.